The end is near. The final shape is almost upon us. The light and dark saga will come to a close, and this 10-year story will finally be put to rest. But a new saga will spring from the remains of the universe, and the world of destiny will go on. This may be the end of a long story, but it is also the beginning of a new one. I know this past year has been a lot of doom and gloom, and Bungie has made a lot of bad mistakes, but I do have high hopes for next year. Instead of only getting new story content the first 7 weeks in a season, episodes will have new story content every 6 weeks. There will be new gameplay as well, but this is a lore and, story YouTube page for the most part, so that is where my focus is. So I do think the doom and gloom will hopefully be put to a rest after Final Shape, and we can focus on new stories and new worlds. But for now, let's talk about the Final Shape. The very first time we heard of the Final Shape was back in Taken King in the Books of Sorrow. Oryx had just wiped out the Kyugu, one of the weirdest races in Destiny lore, I'm going to be honest with you. If you do not know what the Kyugu are, they are descendants of herd animals, so think like sheep, cows, things like that have a virus in their DNA that compels them to rip off their own limbs and feed them to another beast on their planet. If that wasn't weird enough, they would eat the nectar these beasts excreted, and it would make them have strange hallucinations. We also learned in the Imperial lore book that they can dream hop and can change shape to be more like what their surroundings are. Nezarec is most likely one of these Kyugus, as he can kind of hang out in people's dreams, and he does change his body upon being revived to be more like who he is around. This is why a lot of people had problems with him being a little chunky boy. That's because when he was revived this time, he was surrounded by Cabal. And if you've ever seen a Cabal, they are, round. It's also most likely why he has that skin tone that kind of reminds you of Rolk, because he did spend time with the disciples. And after wiping out their whole existence, this is what Oryx says about the Final Shape. I killed my sister today. She came to this star to oversee the extermination of all life here. The Kyugu are a strong power, and their fleets protect 4 nearby stars. As herd animals, they are loyal and stubborn, but they do show grace. For millions of years of evolution, the Kyugu have been infected by a virus so insidious that it wrote itself into their genome. The virus compels them to offer their limbs for amputation by enormous sessile jaw beasts. They venerate these beasts and treat them as gods. The virus converts Kyugu cells into eggs, from which strange crawling things pulpate, to live within the jaw beast gut. In turn, the jaw beast extrudes sweet nectar for the Kyugu to drink, and they have brilliant visions. Savathun and her broods have liberated the Kyugu from jaw beasts, and indeed, from existence. But as they chased the Kyugu arc ships, I stopped in to vaporize my sister's warship and a few of her underlings. I want to dwell on the ruins a while and punish Savathun for failing to guard her flank. They are like us, these Kyugu, bound in symbiosis. I feel joy and sorrow. I feel them as titanic things, because I am larger than my body. My mind is now cosmos of its own. I know more joy and more anguish than the entire Kyugu race could ever experience. Sorrow because we killed so much, 18 species this century alone. And joy for the same reason. Joy that we have put down these blights, scoured them away and left the universe clean, ready to move towards its final shape. We are a wind of progress, ripping parasites from the material world, for if they were not parasites, we would be unable to kill them, and they would still exist. And what is that final shape? It is a fire without fuel, burning forever, killing death, asking a question that is its own answer, eternity itself. That is what we must become. My worm grows fat and hungry. I feed it with whole worlds. My astronomers tell me they can sense the deep itself, and that we are conquering our way towards it. I think joy and sorrow will be the same thing soon. like love and death. This is the first time the final shape was ever mentioned, and I will go over the different ways people saw the final shape, but I will say Oryx may have been the closest. There was another earlier lore entry that talks about shape in final form, but the term final shape is never used. It's done. And Yule fed on the Leviathan's carcass. Xivu Arath has made a temple of the Chroma Admiral's impaled corpse. Below us, Savathun's poisons stain the Ammonite home sea black. Their screams flavor the void. The traveler has fled. Do you understand, Oryx? Do you thrill at the secret, Savathun? Do you relish the edge of this truth, Xivu Arath? Do you see the beautiful shape? The Ammonite occupied a piece of reality. They rented their existence on fraudulent terms, making themselves happy and fat, fencing themselves in soft lives and sweet apocrypha, saying, "We are peaceful and good, we harm nothing." Their golden age was a cancer. They did nothing to advance the cause of life. They burnt up time and matter and thought on the solipsistic pursuit of safety, insulating themselves from death, making a regressive pocket of useless stability, when they could have helped whittle the universe towards its final, perfect form. And your people, suffering in the deep, you became more worthy of existence than the Ammonites. You have proven it. Look around the sky. Behold the great divide, the battle lines of the cosmic war. We are the worm, your god, but we are not the deep itself. We only move within it. You shall too. You shall venerate and study it and haunt it in its passage. Will you lift your thoughts to the millennia, Oryx? Will you bend your will to the liberation of the universe and join us in the war against the sky? We need champions, crusaders. Help us save the universe. Help us exterminate that which would destroy all hope. You are oath-bound to this task by the covenant of your worm, and you are oath-bound to kill Tauix wherever she's hidden herself. This is the earliest reference to the final shape, but like I said earlier, the term final shape in its entirety was never used. Before I get into what the final shape is, I will say what it is not. The Witness does not want to kill everything in the universe. I know a lot of people have moved on from this idea, but I have still seen this come up a few times on my TikTok comments. There are two reasons why people think this: Calus and the Witch Queen final cutscene. But let us take a look at that cutscene again real quick.
We have seen enough. The children of soul cry out for salvation. You promise them life, but deliver only death, as you have for so many before. Enough. Enough death. Enough life. You have no pieces left to place. The game is over. Do not be afraid. Your pale heart holds the key. This time, there is no escape.
The Witness says, enough death, enough life. A lot of people have ignored the enough death part and just went with the enough life part. The Witness has never said that they want to end all life in the universe. It has never even hinted at wanting the universe to be empty, devoid of life. Calus did believe that he would be the last living thing in the entire universe. Well, not exactly the last, because he wanted his friends there with him to party as the universe dies. Calus found the Witness at the edge of the universe, as told on the It Stared Back sword lore. At the edge of the universe, I stared into the infinite deep. It stared back and was pleased. I would become the herald of its victory and bear witness for all creation. We do not know exactly what the Witness said to Calus, but we do know that after Calus had that encounter, he felt the universe would be coming to an end very soon. Let's take a look at the Emperor's Champion Titan armor lore. This lore that I'm about to read off can be found on the helmet, gauntlets, and the chest piece. Looking for a quiet place to watch the end of the world, Emperor Calus. The light of this universe will dim soon. You cannot see it yet, but I assure you, there will be no denying it when it comes. There will be no safety, no defense. The only question you should ask yourself is, where do I want to be at the end? From my vantage, I have cause to ask myself this question with some urgency. I will move soon, and I mean to choose the place from which I will watch all become darkness. I find it poetic and satisfying that you will be near. I will be the last light to go out at the party, Emperor Calus. When you imagine the last moments of all life in this universe, what do you see? Is it struggle, war, and death? Are you fighting to that last breath? Are you suffering? I am not. In those last moments, I am surrounded by joy, pleasure, and good company. I am the last thing that they will see. They give to me the greatest gift. The last of the living acknowledge that I, above all other beings, was real. What will we be to each other in the next life, Emperor Calus? I've known you through many lives now. Gladiator, Primus, Usurper. With each new incarnation, I think we learn a little more about each other. How many more lives before our relationship becomes complete? But this life is my last, because there is no further that I can go. When next we meet, you will face one who has transcended even the gods. What will you be? Now, if you don't know who he's talking to, he is talking to Gaul there, and kind of rubbing in his face that I know more than you, and you should have stayed on my side, buddy. And a lot of people's understanding about the final shape and what it will entail comes from these two sources, Calus and that cutscene. But Calus is only a single piece to the puzzle that is the final shape. And I would like to take a look at what others have said about it as well. First, let us go back to Oryx. I'm going to use a few excerpts from the lore I read earlier. They did nothing to advance the cause of life. They burnt up time and matter and thought on this solipsistic, onostic pursuit of safety, insulating themselves from death, making a regressive pocket of useless stability, when they could have helped whittle the universe towards its final, perfect form. And what is that final shape? It is a fire without fuel, burning forever, killing death, asking a question that is its own answer, entirely itself. That is what we must become. Oryx didn't believe the final shape was the death of the entire universe. Oryx thought the answer was everything that did not deserve to live was killed, and only the perfected survived. The ones who deserved life would have it. Oryx and the hive became a blade to cut away the undeserved, those that wasted their lives by having hope. Oryx's understanding of the final shape made another person very jealous. Rolk hated the hive, hated that the witness put so much faith in them because he saw them as leeches and parasites. It was by Rolk's and the witness's hand that the hive were created, and he felt they should stay beneath him. In your infinite wisdom, you looked beyond the worm I brought you to the least of the leeches that infested Fundament. Shaving thin my gift, you infected them with conquest, and now they see themselves as artisans of the final shape. I will say we do not know for sure what Rolk's idea of the final shape was, but we do know he believed it was every single being in the universe's duty to work towards it. You do not see the collective obligation before you, the duteous burden that has rested on all sentient beings since time's origination, to ferry existence toward the inevitable consequence, the final shape. For those of you who do not know what collective obligation means, because, well, to be honest, I had no idea until I looked it up sometime after the gun's release. It's a legal term. Collective obligations means that the provisions of any collective bargaining agreement, reconciliation agreement, partnership agreement, or workforce agreement, or any codes, regulations, or legislative obligations related to the need to inform or consult, or both with the service provider personnel or other individuals or their appropriate representatives, including any trade union representatives. Whew. Okay. Now, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just a guy who yaps on the internet. So that is meaningless to me. But after some digging in my Lawyer for Dummies books, I obviously have, because who doesn't, it means that both parties have entered a contractual agreement where both must fulfill their duties to receive benefits from the other. Basically, when you go to your job, your employer is obligated to pay you, but you as the employee are obligated to work to receive pay. This is collective obligation. So what Rolk is saying on this exotic is that you entered a contract upon birth to bring upon the means for the final shape to happen. And if you fulfill your obligations, you will receive the beauty of the final shape. But if you do not help bring about the final shape, you have voided your contract and are not worthy of life. While we do not know for sure what Rolk's idea of the final shape is, given his attitude towards the world, it would not be that far-fetched to think it was similar to the hives. Rolk killed everyone left on his planet to prove he was the best. He then set up similar circumstances on another planet so that that race would follow in his footsteps. Being the strongest and the best of the few was his goal, and I believe that would be the way he felt the Witness wanted it also. We get our first real deep look at the final shape with what the Winnower thought. And if you've seen, I made a video on my thoughts over who the Winnower really is, which made it actually onto Bungie's website. I believe the Winnower is the Veil, so that is why I'm making a different point from the Winnower and the Witness here. And I encourage everybody to go watch that video and let me know their thoughts. I will post a link to that video at the end of this one. In the Book of Unveiling on the lore entry, The Final Shape, the Winnower says this: "It always ends the same," the gardener complained. "This one stupid pattern. Aren't they beautiful?" I asked, as the flowers opened and closed in patterns beyond the scope of the entire universes to encode all devouring and perhaps everlasting. Not even we could know whether a pattern in the flowers would cycle forever or someday halt. "They're as dull as carbon monoxide poisoning," the garden grossed, although carbon monoxide did not yet exist, and neither did anything that could be poisoned. The gardener kneeled to flick a patch of sod with their towel. It struck an open flower, closing it shut. Although I was the closer of flowers, and that was my sole purpose, I felt no fear or jealousy. We had our assigned dominions, and always would. "They're majestic," I said. "They have no purpose except to subsume all other purposes. There is nothing at the center of them except the will to go on existing, to alter the game to suit their existence. They spare not one sliver of their totality for any other work. They are the end." The pattern corrected the errant flower effortlessly. The great flow went on unchanged. The gardener got up and brushed their knees. "Every game we play, this one pattern consumes all the others, wipes out every other interesting development. A stupid, boring exploit that cuts off entire possibility spaces from ever arising. There's so much more that we'll never get to see because of this pest." They chewed at their cracked lip, which existed only because this is an allegory. "I'm going to do something about it," they said. "We need a new rule." And then the Winnower says this about the final shape in the lore entry, The First Knife. I looked up in shock. I said, What? What do you mean? A special new rule. Something to... The gardener threw up their hands in aspiration. "I don't know. To reward those who make space for new complexity. A power that helps those that make strength from heterodoxy, who steer the game away from gridlock. Something to ensure there's always someone building something new. It'll have to be separate from the rest of the rules, running in parallel, so it can't be compromised. And we'll have to be very careful, so it doesn't disrupt the whole game. All you will do," I said, with rising panic, fury, "is delay the dominant pattern that will overrun the others. It is inevitable. One final shape." To the Winnower, the final shape, the perfect outcome are the Vex. The Vex are the pattern in the garden game that always wins. An all-consuming force that makes the universe themselves. If it was not for the gardener entering the game this time, the Vex would have been the winners here as well. The Vex cannot predict paracausality, because this was not a rule in the previous garden games. To the Winnower, the final shape will come one way or another. The gardener just set things in motion to push the outcome back. Now in this next lore, we don't know who's talking. It could be a disciple, it could be someone under a disciple, or it could be a long-dead hive, or some race that we've never met before. But they have an idea about the final shape that is a little different than the others, and this can be found in the Inspirial lore book from Root of Nightmares. A dream of a metaphor made starkly, an allegory discussed in study of an ontology. In darkness not unkind. It leaves behind a warped, barely real data fragment to mark its passing. There is a voice that echoes across the darkness, and it asks the question, what is the purpose of it all? And there is another voice that calls back and says, listen, I will tell you a purpose. I will tell you of a final shape. Look, there are 100 gildings for this story. It comes down to one key matter. Beings in suffering crave purpose to carry them through. The tyrant consumed by ennui, or the disenfranchised struggling simply to survive. It is the state of mind, the pain which cries out, "Give me a reason I should suffer so." Let us speak of power and choices. A man comes to a crossroads and asks of the sky, "Which road shall I take?" There is no answer from the sky, nor the wind, nor the earth beneath his feet. But another wanderer on the road coming from behind and hearing the question says, "I know the way, you should take the Dexter road." If the man agrees, he puts himself in the wanderer's power, ceding his own choices for the implicit promise that this is the correct road, the safe road. And if he disagrees, let us say that the wanderer draws a knife. The man may therefore be made to take the Dexter road. But now if the knife goes away, the man will certainly flee. And perhaps even if the knife remains, the man may tire of being threatened and decide the risk is worth fleeing. In this way, the wanderer erodes their own power. If the wanderer says, "The wind has said that you should take the road of my choosing," will the man accept the choice made for him? And if the wanderer says, "Behold, I have seen that the meaning of suffering lies along the Dexter road," will the man give away his power for longer? Is it not easier to accept the guidance of a stranger when the path ahead is unknown? To this unknown entity, the final shape is never having to make decisions again. To have someone else hold your hand and walk you through life. They believe there is someone more equipped to handling all of life's choices and making them for each and every one of us. No more worry, no more mistakes, no more failure, just one path for everyone. The final lore entry about someone's thoughts on the final shape also comes from the Imperial lore book. This is told by an unknown disciple who has a lot of confusion. A delusion of a being long dead, an idea of living only to serve, only for one purpose. It leaves behind a sharp-edged data fragment to mark its passing. There is conflict in me, O witness, that unsettles your weapon, myself. Why is it that you allow flawed understandings of your great work to persist in all those who serve you, even in your disciples? Every one of us seems to have a different conception of your final shape. I do not need reassurance in my own comprehension, only to understand what purpose it serves that you have chosen such disparate servants to carry out your will. Is it a simple answer? Perhaps none who serve you have the capacity to grasp your vision. And so rather than waste more of your time and attention on explaining something they will never hold, it is enough that they act out as your will. The witch and her hive carving single-mindedness out of the cloth of the universe. That whispering nightmare seeking the fullest gamut of existence. The upender destroying all divination. Shadows on the wall. In this case, it would be hubris to think I have understood your work, that I alone among your disciples have grasped what purpose it is we serve. All of us must see darkly reflected. But there is relief in simplification. There is kindness in winnowing. So then why is this proliferation permitted? The shadows showing the truth by their casting. Perhaps it is enough to simply trust that we are weapons in your hand, O witness. Even if we cannot see the perfect shape of your plan, we serve it by your wielding of us. Each disciple has come to be only by your will, and so that incomprehension is also in your making. You ask for trust and obedience, and promise that whatever you do, whatever finality you achieve, will suit each of your followers perfectly. Your final shape will be 100 promises kept. I have seen the reflections of it through all of we disciples, through the tracks you leave in the universe, a truth understood through the shadows it casts. There, I have resolved the conflict within my thoughts, and I am at peace again. Once more, I am your violence, and nothing more. The final shape will realize us as we strive. This long-dead disciple has figured out that everyone has a different idea about what the final shape actually is, that the witness has never told everyone or shown them the full picture. But they also believe that everyone will see their thoughts on the final shape come to pass. But how can that be? Well, first we have to exclude the winnower's final shape's thoughts, as they are not under the witness and are not included in the witness's plan. Because even in the final lore page, there are contradictions. They say Nezarec wants the fullest gamut of existence, which means the widest range. So in layman's terms, to experience everything in all of its complexity. But Rolk wants to destroy differentiations, which means to destroy anything different than itself, to make things simple. And that's very simple. We just have to look at what the Witness wants and what the final shape actually is.
Enough. Enough death. Enough life.
By studying the veil, they came to know the darkness. A power that was shaped by thought and consciousness. And in the darkness, they found the means to carve away the chaos of existence, to calcify it into a final shape. Eternal and perfected.
The Witness wants to get rid of chaos and calcify the universe into its perfect shape. The Witness does not want to end life. They don't want new life. No one to die, no one to be born, no one to be different. Everything the same, everyone on the same path, everyone on the same page, forever. Basically, the Witness is a worst dressed Lord Business from the Lego movie. Now, whether he actually wants to, put glue on everybody, that kind of remains to be seen, but it's a similar concept. When nothing new can express itself, there will be no pain, no suffering, not even any surprises, just a single hand guiding all existence towards the end of eternity. That's the final shape, and in this, everyone will have their promise fulfilled about what they think the final shape is. Oryx and the Hive will have carved out the weakness that did not deserve the beauty that is the final shape. Rolk will have destroyed everything different than itself, making the final shape easier to obtain. Calus, while dead, would have seen the end of the universe as we knew it. And the unknown entity from the lore page meaning will see every choice and path of life fold into a singular line. Everyone will get their desires. The final shape is coming, and with it, the end of our first journey. Thank you all for watching this video, and I'd like to put a special thank you for my members, Prince Mav, Pulse, and Son of Mitch. And if you enjoyed this video, please comment, like, and subscribe. And remember, hunters never die.